Hi, welcome to Real Wellness Yoga. Today we're going to do about a 20-minute practice, and our focus is going to be on self-love. So it's right before Valentine's Day, but anytime is good for some self-love yoga. You'll need a mat and yourself. So we will start out seated on our mats. And before we begin, I invite you to kind of check in with yourself. Check in, first of all, to see if there is anything that you are taking care of today, any sort of injury or something that you're working through, and continue to take care of yourself throughout the practice. And then also check in, how are you feeling right now? Maybe it's been a busy day, maybe you're just starting your day, but let's let everything go. Letting go of what has happened so far during the day, and then also letting go of what we have coming up. And let's just bring ourselves here and now as we take this time for ourselves and we start breathing. So, first, we're just noticing our breath. And then, as we notice our breath, let's work on slowing it down a bit, making our exhales last as long as our inhales. We're seated up nice and tall. We have a long spine. And then on our next inhale, we'll bring our arms up overhead. And we'll just let them fall in front of us on our exhale, holding here for a breath. Using our next inhale to bring us all the way up. Sweeping arms up overhead on an inhale. And twisting throughout our spine on our exhale. Creating a little flow here, using our inhale to bring our arms up overhead. And then exhaling to find a little twist. Inhale, spine is long. Exhale, a little twist throughout that spine. This next one we'll hold for an extra breath here. So staying on the inhale, creating a long spine, using the exhale to maybe get a little deeper in our twist. Coming back to our inhale, hands overhead. Exhaling to our opposite side, staying here for another breath. And using our inhale to bring us back to center. Bringing hands down to heart center. And we'll get ready to transition to our tabletop position. So we'll just sweep our legs to one side and then coming into our tabletop. We want to make sure that our spine is long. So we've got a nice line going from the top of our head all the way down to our hips. Hands are right underneath our shoulders and we're keeping our fingertips nice and wide here, protecting those wrists a little bit. And then also our knees are right underneath our hips. And if at any point during this, we feel like we need a little more padding beneath our knees, we can just take our yoga mat, just create a little extra cushion, roll it up, and then we get a little more padding beneath our knees. Coming back to our neutral spine, and we'll go into a cat-cow flow. As we inhale, we drop our heart, lift the crown of our head up towards the sky. And exhaling into cat, arching our back up. Finding a nice fluid motion, matching our breath to the movement. Or if it helps to think about matching the movement to the breath. We'll go one more each way here. Inhaling, dropping the chest down. Exhaling, arching our back up. And from here, we'll sit it back into child's pose, bringing our hips towards our feet. Hands can be out in front of us, but we want to be able to find our forehead resting on something. So if the mat isn't quite accessible to us, we can stack our fists, and then we've got a nice little spot to rest our forehead. And from here, we can shift our forehead back and forth, finding a little massage. Coming back to our breath as we find stillness. And then returning back to our tabletop position. Long neutral spine, hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, and we'll find a spinal balance. So we're going to take our left foot back, flexing our foot, maybe feeling a little bit of stretch in our calves, and then we'll lift up our leg so it's right in line with the rest of our body. Right hand comes out in front of us. Palm is like you're shaking somebody's hand in front of you. Nice long, long limbs on the inhale, and then returning to the mat on the exhale. Let's try that same thing on the opposite side. Right leg comes out long. Lift up the leg. Left arm comes out in front of us. Inhale, reach. Exhale, return to the mat. And now we'll just flow between each side. Opposite arm and leg, reaching on the inhale and returning to the mat with control on the exhale. Your center is keeping you stable and grounded. Matching our breath with the movement. And let's shift ourselves back into our child's pose. Again, resting our head into our stacked hands if needed. One more breath here. And then we're going to find ourselves in a kneeling plank. So this is where that extra padding comes in a little nice with the mat. If you feel you need to adjust your mat. Our hands are going to be right underneath our shoulders. And we want to create a long spine here. So we want to avoid dropping our hips down, creating that overarch in our back. We also want to avoid bringing our hips up and creating kind of that other way arch in our back. So nice long spine here, pulling belly button in towards the spine, really working our abdominals to keep us steady here. We're in our kneeling plank. Big inhale. And then on our exhale, we'll shift into child's pose. And we're going to use our breath to keep flowing between each. Coming back into kneeling plank on our inhale. Shifting into child's pose on our exhale. Maybe creating a little bit of heat in that upper body and our core. We'll go one more here. And then shifting back into child's pose and staying here for a breath. Now, if you took your mat and rolled it up. We're going to return it back to its original length. And we're going to find ourselves in a downward facing dog. So we'll curl our toes under, lift our hips up, and then slightly shift our weight back. Still keeping a bend in our knee. If we'd like to pedal out our feet, we can here. Heels do not need to touch that mat. We're just driving them down towards the mat. But we're enjoying the length that we're creating in our spine. Also feeling that nice stretch in the back of our legs. And then we'll take our feet and we'll just slowly walk them towards our hands. And we'll hang down in our forward fold, letting our head get nice and heavy. Still keeping some bend in our knee, protecting our lower back. And we will slowly rise all the way up to our mountain pose. As we arrive in mountain, we're just going to roll our shoulders back a bit. And we'll build from the ground up. So planting all four corners of our feet into the mat, keeping a little bend in our knee. Hips are nice and neutral. We've got a long spine. Our core is holding us in. And then shoulders are staying back and down away from our ears. A few breaths here. Let's find a little bit of movement. Sweep arms up overhead on an inhale. And we'll come down for a little chair on our exhale. Sweep arms up overhead. Inhale. Exhaling into chair. Inhale up. Exhaling into chair. Let's hold here for an extra breath. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, bring it all the way back up into extended mountain and hands down to heart center. All right, we're going to lift up our left foot, bring it on back, and we're going into a warrior one stance. So our feet are on separate tracks here. Our left foot is slightly turned out, and then right foot is facing towards the front of the mat, and our hips are facing towards the front of the mat. So if you need to kind of take your hands and just make sure that if there were headlights here, they'd be facing straight forward. Hands will come up overhead, keeping our shoulders down. We still have an active back. Holding here for a breath. We'll reach on up on our inhale. And then pull our arms down on an exhale, opening up our chest a little bit here. Reaching arms up. And then on our exhale, stepping forward. We'll do that same thing on our opposite side, taking our right foot, stepping it back. Warrior one pose. Hips again are forward. Hands come up overhead. Holding here for a breath. Breath in, reaching up. And pulling arms down on our exhale, opening up. And then bringing arms up overhead. Stepping forward on the exhale. We'll reach on up. And as we exhale, we're keeping a bend in our knee. We're going to fold all the way down, letting our head get heavy. Finding a halfway lift. So we have a flat back here. Hands are at our shins. Big inhale. And then exhale, bringing hands to the mat. Big bend in the knee. Stepping back into all fours again. And we'll transition into a seated pose. Transitioning into our seated pose here. Finding our butterfly. So we'll bring the soles of our feet together. If we want a little more sensation, we're bringing them closer to us. And then just letting knees kind of fall down to the sides. And we're staying nice and tall here. So finding some length in our spine. We can stay right here, enjoy the sensation that we're feeling in our inner thighs, opening up our hips. Or we can just find a little bend here, forward fold, keeping our back straight. Staying here for a few breaths. On that next inhale, if we took that fold, we'll come back up and we'll bring our knees together here. We're going to find a little more of a chest opener, opening our hearts up to some more love. Hands are going to come kind of right behind you, and our fingertips will point forward. And then we'll just open up that chest, bringing our shoulders back. Our gaze is at that point where the ceiling and the wall meet. So not quite dropping our head all the way, just enough to open up our chest. Staying here for a few breaths, opening up on our inhale, filling up our bellies, chest with fresh air. And then exhaling, lifting our hands up. We'll find a little twist here. Legs are going to come out long in front of you. We'll take one knee and we're going to bend it. So our foot is staying right in line here. And then on our inhale, we're sitting up nice and tall. On the exhale, we twist our chest towards the knee that's bent. And then we take our hand behind us and we kind of use that to help prop ourselves up. It almost acts as a second spine for us. Finding some length on the inhale, and then maybe a little more twist on the exhale. On our next exhale, we'll slowly twist out of that. Come back to center, and we'll switch legs. Find some bend in that opposite knee. Holding that knee, finding some length on the inhale, and then twisting on the exhale. Again, using that back hand to help you stay nice and tall through your spine. On our next exhale, we'll twist out of that, and we'll find a nice seated position. So any position that feels good for you here, we can come to seated. If you really like the child's pose, you could always hang out there for a while too. And we'll bring ourselves back to our breath, remembering how we slowed our breath at the beginning, focused on filling up on the inhale, and then using that exhale to completely empty out, trying to equalize both parts of that breath. And let's close our eyes, or maybe just kind of gaze down at the floor. And when we think about self-love, we think about how loving others can be easy for us, but we need to take the time to also love ourselves. So I have these nice little mantra cards And I will read this one for you. Loving others is easy when I love and accept myself. My heart is open. I allow my love to flow freely. I love myself. I love others, and others love me. So, reflecting on that, when we take care of ourselves and love ourselves, we're able to love those around us a little easier. We'll take one collective breath together. If you're seated, you can bring your arms up overhead. Big inhale, bringing arms up. And exhaling them down to heart center. Thank you for taking the time for yourself today. Namaste.